Hi, folks. Welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. I believe this is going to be a very important video. A lot of information has been kind of pouring out today, and you need to watch this one. This may be one that you also will share with friends and loved ones. Encourage them to watch it so that they can kind of step up their game very rapidly, because I think things are getting ready to shift. Before I get into the real meat and taters of what's going on, let's just cover a few other things. Of course, the protests and riots, they're growing. They're finding their way in all kinds of cities across the country. Department of Homeland Security has put in a request for an additional 20,000 U.S. troops to be deployed in the United States at various cities to assist federal agents and law enforcement in all of these protests and in rounding up illegals. It's looking more and more very scripted, I think. And, scripted on the point and the part that it's how it's happening, how it's growing rapidly. Like I said, that there's advertisements and recruitments all over the place. So it's being done. And I think part of it's being done because of what's possibly going to happen in the next few days, which I'll get to that here in just a minute. So stick with me. But yeah, get ready for that, because it's gonna be much bigger than you think. The president announced that a trade deal has been met between us and China. And I hate to sound like this critical, deranged Trump, whatever stuff, but to be honest with you, what we've seen on paper so far, which isn't much, but what they have announced is the trade deal doesn't look anything better than what we had before all of this tariff war stuff, and looks actually worse. Basically, China will sell the United States its rare earth minerals and magnets. The United States will allow Chinese nationals into the country to go to our colleges, and we will pay a 55% tariff on Chinese goods, and they'll pay a 10% tariff on the United States stuff. And everyone's calling that a win because, we've put these tariffs on Chinese goods. Why is it so hard for people to understand that the majority of these tariffs you and I will pay? The American people are paying those tariffs. The importers paying the tariffs, and they pass it on to whoever's, the retailer, and then the retailer's going to pass it on to you. The majority of it. They may try to eat a little bit of it, but here's the thing. A 55% tariff is not really enough to compel a manufacturer to manufacture the stuff in the United States versus China, because the cost. It's not enough to really compel people, for the most part, to stop buying Chinese goods, because most American things that would be comparable are probably more than 55% increase. I've looked several things up that I could think of, and everything that I could find that was American versus its, Chinese counterpart, it would still be cheaper to buy the Chinese counterpart with a 55% tariff. And you and I will be paying that. So I do not see how that's a win for the American people. The federal government is going to get more tax revenue, but you have less money, and it's not really hurting Chinese companies that much. I mean, there may be a little bit of shift over to American products, but I don't think it's enough. So anyways, that's that. The big thing, and the other thing, I've almost forgot. This one's actually big. I'm sure I'll make a separate video on this in the coming days, depending on what else is going on. But the president issued a kind of a strange executive order today. Issued an executive order to encourage, compel, push flying cars, drones, flying taxi cabs, to push this technology. Now, of course, we've had drones, and, there are a few very rare, obscure flying cars. They're novelty things, but that's not a technology that's really out there. And I remember back several weeks ago in that government document saying that, I believe it was from the president, the White House, saying that there was technology that they have that can change reality and all this high tech. They alluded to the government having this very advanced technology, which most of us would say we know that, but at least they're admitting to it now. And so now we're talking about flying cars and, flying taxi cabs and stuff. So that's interesting. It's just more of this, AI, surveillance drones, all of this kind of stuff. But the big thing to talk about, and I think this is very, very big, it has the potential to being extremely big, is it looks like the conflict between the United States, Israel, and Iran is about ready to go hot. A lot of things seems to have changed in the last 24 hours. And when I say change, I mean rapidly change. You know, it was just a day ago, I think it was actually 2 days ago, that it was reported that the president had a phone conversation with Benjamin Netanyahu. And the president was saying at that time that they felt that they could still have a negotiated deal with Iran. And the report is that there was a heated conversation, not necessarily anger, but it was an intense conversation. And that Netanyahu was telling Trump, they're just dragging this out. They're just dragging this out to buy them time. They're not going to do anything. And Trump told Benny that, hey, you need to stop making all these threats, you know, to Iran. You need to let this process play out. I think we can still make a deal, right? And so that's what was said out of nowhere, because I cannot find, since that news of that conversation, I can't find anything necessarily indicating that something has changed. So, but something obviously has changed. It's just you and I don't know about it yet. Watch this little video clip here of the president today talking about how things have rapidly changed with Iran. I'm not going to show it all. I'll show just a few little clips so I don't get in trouble for copyright.
Do you think you're going to be able to stop Iran from enriching its...
I don't know. I did think so. And I'm getting more and more less confident about it. They seem to be delaying, and I think that's a shame. But I'm less confident now than I would have been a couple of months ago. Something happened to them, but I am much less confident of a deal being made.
All right. Notice how he says they're just dragging this out. He says almost the same thing verbatim of what was reported that Benjamin Netanyahu said. And he goes on to say that, you know, a couple of months ago, I was really confident that we were going to work out this deal. Now something's changed with them. Something's happened. And I don't believe it's going to happen. I don't believe that we can work out a deal with them. The reporter asks him, well, what does that mean? What are the consequences of that? And he says, well, they're not going to have a nuke. He said, they're not going to have nuclear weapons one way or the other. They're not going to have nuclear weapons if we work out a peace deal with them, and they're not going to have nuclear weapons if we attack them. He says the only real difference is they're going to choose whether or not to have death and destruction with war, and they'll have a lot of that. So that's still being talked about. Senator Tom Cotton today stated that the Secretary of Defense did confirm to Armed Services Committee that they have solid intel that Iran is actively, as we speak, putting together a nuclear weapon. They are building a nuclear weapon. That has been confirmed. Now, what has changed in the last 24 hours, probably last 12 hours, is that every U.S. embassy within missile reach of Iran is being evacuated. Every one of them. Every military base in the Middle East went on high alert. The entire U.S. Navy went on high alert. They have issued high alerts to all oil freighters in that region. Iran, their military has gone on high alert. News in Iran is reporting that the Ayatollah Khamenei, whatever supreme leader, has issued an order to all jihadists around the world that if they are attacked by Israel or the United States, that they will commit jihad on the United States or Israel, wherever they're at. There is just this rapid buildup. It's being reported that Russia is sending their newest, best hypersonic missiles to Iran. These are capable of carrying nuclear warheads and capable of reaching Israel. Iran stated that if they are attacked, they will turn around and they will attack any U.S. asset that they can in the region, which is probably why the U.S. embassies are being evacuated. There just seems to be a rapid change. In fact, one reporter I was reading on Twitter said that, you know, of course, an unnamed source. So it could be baloney. But they had an unnamed source in the Pentagon that said, listen, I don't know what's going on, but I can tell you this. If we knew that this was getting ready to go kinetic, what you see happening is exactly what would be happening. So it sounds like, it looks like that unless something dramatically changes in the next few days, that this is going to go hot. The deadline, I think, is tomorrow, is what the United States gave Iran, was till tomorrow. There's zero indication that they are going to come up with any kind of deal that the United States would accept. They have to know that there's a really good chance that they are about to embark upon a big war. And so, to me, there's only two things that could happen that they are thinking. Number one, they're willing to just, go down fighting. That doesn't seem very likely. Or that they know something. They know that Russia has committed to support them, that other people have committed to support them. They have done their own analysis on what they're capable of. Maybe they're just over, confident, but there's got to be something else. This went from Trump's wanting Israel to calm down, said just hold your horses. We're still working on something. We can work this out. All this craziness going on domestically with riots, to boom, everything needs to be evacuated. We're on high alert. Send everything over there. We're sending, tanker planes over there just rapidly. I mean, it's moment by moment almost of how much stuff is happening right now in the Middle East. So it looks like this is getting ready to pop off. Now, here's the thing. Let's put it all together. We've got riots going on in many major cities in the United States, which will probably, over the course of the next 3 or 4 days, dramatically increase. Very possibly 20,000 U.S. troops will be deployed on top of the 4,800 that's already deployed on American streets. A major parade in Washington, D.C., where a lot of military assets are going to be, and very likely a lot of protests and riots are going to happen. At the same time, it's possible that there will be strikes against Iran, which will activate jihadists. So in the midst of all of this protests and riots, you could have pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel, anti-United States cells activating in the United States. There is a recipe here of very bad things happening. Very bad things. Very rapidly. And I don't want to scare anyone. That's certainly not what I want to do. But I think this is very serious. I'm not 100% sure that this is going to happen. That this attack, that a war is going to break out. I'm not 100% sure. But my confidence level right now seems to be I think it's pretty high. I feel like it's pretty high that something is going to happen in the next few days. And it could easily spiral in this country, our home. It could happen here. It would not take much at all for cells to integrate themselves into these protests and either make them worse, set off explosive devices, do all sorts of things. It wouldn't take much. And so we need to be rapidly preparing. And I'm not saying, go out and spend all your money and run up the credit cards and take a quick mortgage out on your home and buy everything. I'm saying you need to be preparing yourself very quickly. Going over stuff, making your equipment ready, keeping things topped off and ready to go. We've got the deadline for the Iranian deal is tomorrow, and then 3 days from now is the parade celebration in Washington, D.C. If the UN and now the Pentagon is confirming that Iran is actively in the process putting together a nuke and could have that nuke finished in a short amount of time, the other report is that they had made a 2 megaton detonation underground. They know that happened. They're not 100% sure if it was a nuclear detonation, but it was potentially a nuclear detonation. Israel is not going to sit by very much longer and let this happen. And then we're not going to sit by and let Israel take the heat for this and us to do nothing. And then it's very possible that Russia's not going to sit by and let Iran get destroyed. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. You need to get ready, get prepared, get your equipment, yourself, your home, everything ready to go. Because even though the big war may be in the Middle East, the violence and stuff between the already going on riots and the very real possibility of terror cells activating over the coming days in the United States in the midst of all of this chaos. Get ready, folks. Get your houses in order. Prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.